You must know Van Gogh had failed many times in his professions. As we say in Dutch, he had 12 ambachten en 13 ongelukken. In English, 12 professions and 13 accidents. So after the times he had spent as a dealer of art, as a dealer of books, as a minister in the Borinage, in the Borinage, he came to Etten-Leur because he didn't know what to do. And when he came to Etten-Leur, he told his father, I want to be an illustrator. But he didn't want to say, I want to be a painter. But at this time, as painter, you couldn't earn much, and as illustrator, you could take care of yourself.
Right now we're standing in the middle of the city center in Etten-Leur, in front of the city hall. In 1881, Vincent van Gogh decided to become a painter in Brussels, but it wasn't official. It was here in Etten where he registered himself as a painter officially.
It was very difficult. It was very difficult. So when at the time that he did make the decision to train as in to become an artist, so when he was 27 years old and was really down and out, you might say, and still in Belgium in the Borinage after his failure as a preacher. This is 1 year from 1879 to 1880 that he did not really quite knew what to do. He was reading a lot, so and from his letter writing, you might also tell he could also have been a writer maybe. He was reading a lot. He was probably also trying to do some preaching. We're not exactly sure. He was also making a lot of drawings, but he was not very confident in that. He did try to seek out other artists, maybe to get some help in that period. But they must have looked at his drawings and said, well, there's not much to do for us here. So when in the end he did make a decision, it was on Theo's advice. And Theo advised him earlier, also a couple of years earlier as well, to become an artist. But although maybe at heart he wanted to become one, he just absolutely lacked the confidence of becoming one because of his lack of talent, you might say.
Dwelling in all different uncertainties in becoming an artist did not stop Van Gogh from following his passion. In a way, art was always the topic he was interested in, and he was exposed to it from childhood, and at Goupil when he was just a teenager. Art, by all means, has influenced Vincent only in a positive way, and although he did not know it himself, he possessed natural characteristics of an artist.
I think, well, look closely to your surroundings. I think that's something which is helpful for every artist. So they have a trained eye to look around. Well, to train yourself the other way, to do something with your hands is not an aspect, of course, aspect of being an artist, but you have to have an eye for things. What I like, especially about this Amsterdam period, especially the letters, he's got such a keen eye of describing his surroundings. So when there's some telling parts when he wakes up quite early in the morning at 5 o'clock, even when the sun is just coming up, and he sees the workers going to the shipyard, and he describes them wonderfully how this, and he compares these descriptions with paintings or etches by Rembrandt or Jacob Meyers and paint. So he's got this very painterly, artistic eye, you might say, of his surroundings.
Working to become an artist did not hinder Van Gogh's passion for the Christian faith. His devoted soul was digging deeper into the core, and he found salvation and peace from God through the means of other than working for the church.
Art became his religion, you might say, but in his art he wanted to do exactly the same thing what he wanted to do before as a preacher. He wanted to reach out to people, wanted to do something for people, wanted to console them, wanted to help them. And once he found out that he could not do this with as a preacher himself, then he turned into art and made his art something to talk to other people.
I think that also as an artist, he's kind of a preacher of the arts. So he has a message he wants to tell. And it's kind of an idealistic message of how people should live together and of how art should play an important role in society. So therefore he has in a new way the same ideas as his father and before him his grandfather.
Perfecting painting skills with no prior training at the age of 27 sounds almost impossible at that time. But the idea was initiated first by Theo. Therefore, while Vincent was trying hard to learn how to paint, He had no livelihood, and Theo became Vincent's sole financial support and a spiritual guardian.
It would be very beneficial for me to have a thing or two about the anatomy of the horse and sheep, cow, not with an eye to veterinary medicine, but rather with a view to drawing the aforementioned animals. If I'm asking you for all these things like this, it's because you'll most likely have an opportunity to find such prints very cheaply, relatively speaking, just as I've already found a few myself, and you'd perhaps pay them less heed if I hadn't said that they are of such great use to me.
Theo must have recognized something, as he's got more the character of an artist than of somebody else, and then of some other occupation. And when he did make this decision, then he had a lot of things, of course, to do. And first, of course, is train very hard. And in the first couple of months, he made hundreds and hundreds of copies from handbooks, of prints, just to get a grip on especially two things which were quite lousy, is perspective, proportion. So it's very difficult for him to get the right perspective in his drawings. And the other hand was figure drawing. So when you look at his figures, especially there's some of these drawings from this period from before 1880, and it's like children's drawings. They're very elongated wooden figures, silhouetted, and with very long arms, very always two big hands, two big heads, and etc. So he had to grip on his figure drawing as well.
You might have heard about Van Gogh's famous painting like the sunflowers or the illustrations of the Starry Night. We know that when he started his career as a painter, he used all nature's resources to practice his painting skills. He used willow trees, open fields, he drew beautiful nature sceneries. But little do we know is what Vincent was like as a lover. Who was his woman? Did he have any at all? His writing style revealed that he's such a young, passionate man from the inside. So we wonder, why such a young, passionate man remained single throughout his life?
He had a slightly drawback, is that he was not very attractive to look at. So it was quite difficult for him to get the like of the ladies, as you might say. And this is also very telling from, well, but there are not many photographs of Vincent. There is one when he's 19 years old, and afterwards he never took a photograph again. And you could tell from his features that he was not too tall. He was a bit small. He had reddish hair. He had freckles. He had probably some kind of facial tic as well, and he had a very severe look. So people can tell that the way he could look at you already could make you a bit uncomfortable. He's got this penetrating gaze. And they called him just an ugly little man. I think this, well, it makes you more to yourself. So it makes you build a shield around you, you might say, to find your way in life. And he did it in a way that he just didn't care how people thought about him, and it showed in the way he dressed. That changed considerably because, of course, he was brought up as to take care of yourself. You have to dress appropriately to your own class. But he usually went around, when he was an artist, walking in simple clothes, working men's clothes, blue shirts, blue collars. But he would walk also with a fur hat in the middle of summer, which of course is a bit strange, and things like, and that's what people remember, of course, when they see him. So it's not, he was very inapproachable, you might say.
Perhaps it is true that I don't have the ability to mix with people who are keen on etiquette. But on the other hand, I perhaps have some feeling for poor or simple folk. And if I lose on the one hand, I won on the other hand. And sometimes I simply give up and think. After all, it's right and reasonable that I, as an artist, live in what I feel and try to express. Evil be to him who evil thinks.
At the same time, when Vincent returned to Etten to find peaceful nature fields to practice his drawing skills, there was another person there, in search for amity. Gogh, the daughter of Aunt Mina, Vincent's mother's sister, was recently widowed, and came to Etten with her 8-year-old son in search for consolation after her loss. She often accompanied Vincent into the fields and kept him company while he painted. And after a short period of time, familiarity breeds fondness, and Vincent grew incredibly in love with her.
My dear Theo, there's something on my mind that I want to tell you. Perhaps you already know something about it, and what I'm telling you isn't news. I want to tell you that this summer I've come to love Gogh Vos so much that I could find no other words for it than it's just as if Gogh Vos were the closest person to me, and I the closest person to Gogh Vos. And I said these words to her, but when I told her this, she replied that her past and her future were all one to her, and so she could never return my feelings. Then I was in an awful dilemma about what to do, to resign myself to that no, nay, never, or not yet to regard the matter as over and done with, and to take courage and not give up yet. I chose the latter, and until now I haven't regretted that decision, even though I'm still confronted with that no, nay, never.
Immediately after Vincent's unexpected confession, Gogh Vos fled back to her parents' home and rejected him evidently. The parents from both ends were very frustrated with Vincent and thought of him as irrational and almost insane. Although Van Gogh reassures himself that there is no wrongdoing in the pursuit of true love, the scandal gathered many opposing opinions from the elders. Desperately trying to find support, Vincent turns to Theo, hoping that his own brother can understand him.
Only I believe that they are decidedly against it, and I want to make you see this. They'll try and see to it that Gogh and I can neither see, nor speak, nor write to one another, just because they understand very well that if we were to see, speak or write to one another, there would be a chance of change of heart in Gogh. Gogh herself thinks she'll never change her mind, and though the elder persons are trying to convince me that she can't change, they fear that change nonetheless. The elder persons will change their minds about this matter, not when Gogh changes her mind, but when I become someone who earns at least 1,000 guilders a year. Again, forgive the hard contours with which I outline things. While I find little sympathy from the elders, I think that some of the younger ones will be able to understand my attitude. Perhaps you, Theo?
Frustrated, Vincent rejected everyone's opinion, rejected this institution of religion, and his relation with his family just became worse and worse. For Van Gogh, love, religion, and work should all be the same. They should all come from within. There should be no rules, no regulations to what one feels. Love comes naturally.
His Christian faith, it was still there, but it changed. Well, he said goodbye, you might say, to the institution of religion. So he said goodbye to Protestantism, Catholic, all those things which are an institute, where other people tell you how to believe. He said there is belief in everybody. Everybody can believe in his own way. It's a personal thing. But of course, it's also a very Protestant thing, so you have your own personal God, your own personal faith. But he didn't care too much anymore for going to church and things like that, because that's not where the true faith was. The true faith was your own relationship with God, in a sense you might say also with nature. So he changed more into, already you might say, some kind of Buddhist way of looking at the world and finding God in everything, a pantheistic worldview, where nature and man were central.
He was philosophical, very philosophical. When you do that, when you can reach that and can think about life around you and your own situation in it, you have grown up. Yes, he is very special, very inspiring. Yes.